Real quick before the video starts, I'd like to thank all the new viewers to my channel recently, and specifically to Jazz Nightwing for the shoutout in his recent video. It really does mean a lot, and if you're one of these new viewers, then don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my content, but that's enough of that and let's get on with the video. I've talked before in videos about accounts with names that are longer than 16 characters, or with characters that aren't usually allowed, but I've never talked about the opposite. There are a handful of accounts with only 2 letters in their name, something that just isn't possible anymore. These names are now incredibly valuable and some hold years of history behind them, including unlocking, name changing, and even deletion. These names just can't be created anymore, and if you try to create an account with fewer than 3 letters, it simply rejects it. But this wasn't always the case. Back before February of 2015, 4 letters was the minimum an account could have, meaning that 3-letter accounts were equally as rare as 1 or 2 character names. But on name change day, something that I'll talk about later, on the 4th of February, it was lowered to 3 letters. All of this though still leaves the question of how were 2 characters made? And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So without further ado, please make sure to like and subscribe and enjoy the video. The most obvious and known about creation methods is that they were possible to make back in the super early years of Minecraft, when Mojang didn't 100% know what they were doing with accounts and usernames. However, these accounts, similar to normal OG names, were still nearly as rare as they are now. Mojang had a system where you could register an account with the username, but not actually create and pay for it, therefore reserving the username and preventing other people from getting it. These legacy accounts existed for some years after even the full release of the game. Eventually though, Mojang decided to do something about this, and decided on the name change day I referenced earlier, leading to many OG accounts receiving new owners. The issue with this though, is that this happened well after 2 characters were deemed invalid. So, how are legacy accounts related to 2 characters? Well, that's where things get interesting. There have been several cases of legacy accounts, some 2 characters and some not, being jacked from the original owner and made real accounts by the hacker. Nobody really knows the methods used to recover the things needed to do this, as there were no databases back then, but it is known that emails to certain accounts were somehow found, hacked into, and eventually glitches were used to create the account under a new owner. This was done to a few accounts, some that I can't mention, but most notably to the now locked F account. There's also been some cases of exploits in the name changing systems, times where you could create these accounts when you're not supposed to be able to, similar to the glitch with invalid accounts. This led to 2 major points where you could create accounts, one in 2011 and one in 2014. For example, the account 3.0 was created in 2011 using the invalid glitch, and the account JW was made in the 2014 exploit. Lastly, there was a few made in 2009 before Minecraft was even public that were given to family or friends so that they could test out the game before it was even released. My favourite example of this is the account EZ. Now it has a very popular definition of being a shortened version of the word easy when pronounced in the American dialect, meaning that it would be a very valuable account if it was to be hacked. But back in 2009, phrases like this weren't nearly as common. It was actually made by Notch's ex-wife, Elin Zetterstrand. Of course, EZ are her initials, so without knowing that 2 characters would be as rare as they are now, she registered her account as that. Interestingly, as her marriage lasted from 2011 to 2012 with Notch, she has the Minecon capes from their respective conventions. This brings me well onto my next point of capes. Minecon capes on 2-letter accounts aren't as rare as you might think. They're treated much the same as regular OG accounts, and there are many accounts with 2016 and 2015 capes on them. This is because codes for these capes aren't that hard to come by, and they can just be bought and applied by the owner easily. But when it comes to earlier capes, they become much less common. There's a few examples from 2013 capes, but 2012 and 2011 are of course the rarest. As I've covered in my video about Minecon capes, if you haven't watched that by the way, there'll be a card in the top right, 2011s were put straight onto an attendee's account at the event, but all the others were redeemed through codes. In most cases, it would result in there being many more 2012 accounts, some even being redeemed in the last few months. But when it comes to 2 characters, this doesn't seem to be the case. There are 3 2-letter accounts with 2011, these being Easy, Mr, and PC. But even after I talked to many other people in the community, I couldn't seem to find any other 2 letters with 2012 capes other than Easy and XF. But even Easy is only known through word of mouth. Elin hasn't used the 2012 cape in so long that it actually remains uncached and unviewable on all of the websites I looked on. Of course, it's still not impossible for more 2-letter names to have 2012 capes added to them, as there are codes that pop up every so often. Similar to regular invalid accounts, changing the name of a 2-character account completely ruins it. There has been rumours of Mojang returning the name to some hacked accounts, but as they remove the name history as well, it's hard to confirm. I'm actually recording this the day after I recorded that voiceover. It turns out that I did actually manage to find one of these. As I was editing, I got a message from my friend saying that the account 0W was changed to LGBT on name change day, but then a few months after, it was changed back to 0W after they realised how valuable the original name was, so there you go. Regardless, there's a couple main reasons that 2 letters have been changed, all being equally as infuriating to people in the community. The first are the accounts that were changed by original owners without even realising the value of them, or ones that just didn't really care. A good example of this is E3, a 2-letter with decent meaning behind it that was changed shortly after the name change feature was added. The owner must have just seen that they could change and got something that they liked, but destroying the original name forever. Then there was NY. This was known to be a scam account sold around to multiple people but then taken back by the seller to steal the buyer's money. There are a couple of 2 characters that are scam accounts, but few have had the same fate or are anywhere near as well known as this one is. Scam accounts are of course very disliked in the OG community, so eventually someone got access to the account and changed the name to prevent anyone else losing their money over it, but also just to screw over the owner. There's also the reverse of this, which coincidentally happened to LA. This was a much more recent and seemingly malicious case. The story goes that in mid-December of 2019, a known scammer accessed the account by using a keylogger to find the owner's password. The name was then changed to Fraud x Aether and ruined permanently. Coincidentally, the owner was the same as Facebook, so the scammer took the opportunity to change that name too, to Aether x Fraud. Lastly, there's the cases that were for nothing else than attention. For example, back in 2016, G8 was the most searched 2-letter, with hundreds of NameMC views per month. But for no other reason than the clout, it was changed to Peace 2-letter. Similarly, VE was changed to Archaeoed by Vass in mid-2018. As many of these accounts are almost a decade old now, you can imagine some of them have been passed around the market a lot. This happened to such an extent that a good amount are either locked or even deleted entirely, but as with most things, a lack of stock creates a much higher value. A few years back, accounts were selling for a couple hundred or sometimes even less. For example, I've seen high-tier 2-letter accounts recently sell for thousands of dollars. Sadly, I can't talk about many of these for fear of them being locked by Mojang similar to the older ones. In terms of value though, they're similar to regular names except just more valuable. Capes boost the price alongside the meaning of accounts. For example, the account E3 would have sold for more than something like B7 as it's the name of one of the biggest gaming conventions worldwide, but the account IF would have gone for way more for obvious reasons. There are several other factors that boost the value of an account too, such as it being what's known as a repeater. This just means that the name is 2 of the same character, such as something like FF, or for example collections such as mirror pairs. An example of this would be say G9 and 9G sold to the same person to use as a pair. Sadly though, since around 2011, there's been very little support from Mojang regarding 2-letters in terms of account sealing and passwords amongst other things. This is presumably because of how much selling and hacking there is regarding the accounts. But back around the time that they stopped support, this was much rarer, so it's hard to tell the real reason behind this. There also wasn't any sort of announcement regarding them stopping the support either. Mojang just seemingly decided that they didn't want names to be shorter than 3 letters. This is why rumours about certain accounts being restored to their original 2-letter names are so interesting. Before I end the video, I would like to say a big thank you to Puzzle, Depot and everyone else that helped me make this video. There was a lot of fact-checking and research that went into making this video, so thank you all for that. But if you did enjoy the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Again, thank you to everyone that's been supporting me recently, it's been super motivating, so make sure to comment any ideas you have for new videos in the future. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace.